Well, here's a collection of words I never thought I'd say. A screenwriter is suing Jeff Bezos and the Tolkien estate for stealing his story to use for the Rings of Power. Okay. I don't care how creative you are, you couldn't make this up. No one on the face of the planet has the talent to make up something this crazy. From Radar Online, quote, Jeff Bezos and the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien are being accused of ripping off a screenwriter's work for their $1 billion series, Radar Online has learned. Let's just stop there and savor the brilliant stupidity of the claim. Someone is claiming that Amazon stole the Rings of Power from them. An actual person, a real-life human being, is taking credit for one of the worst-written shows in recent history. This person is actually sitting over here like,
Filthy Jeff Bezos, they stole it from us. Kirsten, we hates them. Ours it is, and we wants it.
And what exactly does this person want? $250 million. Quote, according to court documents contained by RadarOnline.com, a writer named Demetrius Polychron filed a $250 million lawsuit against Bezos, several Amazon studio execs, and J.R.R. Tolkien's estate. The suit accuses the defendants of copyright infringement. My God, the balls on this dude. You want $250 million over this terrible story. For real, do you carry your balls in a duffel bag or a Humvee? Seriously, he must be all balls. Just a head, Ron DeSantis' baby dick, and balls that scrape the ground. And I have proof because his confidence doesn't stop there. Quote, in the lawsuit, Polychron said he created, wrote, and published an original book entitled Fellowship of the King and conceived an entire 7-book series, The War of the Rings. So you used damn near the same titles Tolkien used. That's bold. Polychron claims he also got a copyright for the book in 2017. I'm not sure how that would apply in this situation because if the book was heavily inspired by Tolkien's works, that could amount to plagiarism and potentially violate the copyright and trademark claims on Tolkien's works. It depends on how close the book was to what Tolkien wrote. The article also says that he sent a letter to Tolkien's grandson asking him to review the book, but didn't get a reply. 2 years later, he hired a lawyer to contact the Tolkien estate to propose a collaboration, but they turned it down. He also says that he left a copy of the book at Tolkien's grandson's home, which is presumably how Amazon got a hold of it. If that sounds completely unrealistic, that's because it probably is. As scummy as Amazon is, it doesn't sound probable that Amazon Studios would steal this guy's work and use it for the show. It's possible, but not believable. Kind of like this claim, quote, the writer said the estate signed a $250 million deal with Amazon to create the series The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. He said the show copied largely from his book. Polychron said while his book is inspired by Lord of the Rings, his work had separate and distinct characters and storylines from the Lord of the Rings series. His suit claimed these wholly original, distinct, and separate characters and storylines compose as much as 1/2 of the 8-episode series as released and published by defendants. In many cases, defendants copied exact language from his book. In other instances, defendants copied images that match the book cover and descriptions as created in the book as authored by Polychron, the suit read. Except that doesn't make sense. If the works were completely distinct from The Lord of the Rings, then how could Amazon lift it whole cloth and plunk it down in their half-assed version of Middle-earth without making massive changes? They would have to alter enough of the story and characters to make it fit into that world, which could make it different enough to get past accusations of plagiarism and theft. We have an example of this happening with Babylon 5 and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. J. Michael Straczynski pitched the show to Paramount, but they turned it down. A few years later, when he finally got it picked up somewhere else, Paramount released news about DS9, and it had strikingly similar characters and concepts to Babylon 5. The two shows are very alike in the beginning, but go in different directions by their respective midpoints. The similarities were clear enough, though, that when people found out about the history of B5, many of them accused Paramount of stealing the concept. JMS has never filed a lawsuit, but he probably could have, and may have won solely because of the start of the shows being so similar. We don't have that comparison with the Rings of Power and Polychron's story because we don't know anything about his story. Too much of what happens in the Rings of Power references Tolkien's works for it to have been lifted straight from his book, unless his book was basically lifted from Tolkien. That's also possible. We don't have any excerpts from his book to say one way or the other. This whole thing comes across as a hilarious but frivolous lawsuit. Even if it turns out to be true that Amazon jacked his story, $250 million? Did you watch the show? If Amazon just copied dude's story, then that means his story sucks. His writing sucks. His characters suck. Who in the world would give you $250 million for bad fan fiction? If you did write this story, Demetrius Polychron, you should keep your mouth shut and try to publish something under your real name so nobody knows how bad of a writer you are. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.